Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chulas Pero Mulas. Um, this is Irene, your host, and we have.
Laura Tellez. Hello, guys.
Hey guys, okay, so today, because by popular demand, apparently, well, actually, I've been told from a couple of listeners that they wanted Laura to kind of finish the stories of what happened and how she got into the system and why she was in the hospital 6 times that year. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and resume some of the stories. I was telling Laura earlier that I wanted to talk about coming from a big family because well, with us, it's a total of five of us. It's three girls and two boys. So in the first episode, we were pretty much talking about us growing up, but we didn't get a chance to go into detail as far as our brothers and some of the hardships that that not only we went through, but unfortunately, they endured as well. So I was talking to Laura one day, and I said, I think that the biggest reason why I decided not to have a big family was because we came from a big family, and I always thought, it's difficult. Like it's really hard to just be able to take care of a family of so like with so many kids. Like it just I think at a very when my brothers were born, I think I basically made a conscious decision that either I was not going to have any children, or maybe have later on I thought maybe one child. But then Laura has a totally different like view on that, right, Laura?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think because coming from a big family, I I just loved, being around my siblings and just how we almost didn't even need other people to have like a party. I mean, we were like a party
That's true.
ourselves. So to me, I always wanted to have a big family, and I did. I have four kids, three girls and one son, three daughters and one son. So to me, yeah, it's a different view of what what I wanted to have as before even getting married. I always thought I want to have a big family. I think I had a lot of my friends had a big family, and I remember just seeing them, around their siblings, and I just thought, yeah, that's. I think I want to, not thinking about how I was gonna do it to support
Like,
other.
can I support them or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that didn't even. I
Yeah,
mean, I
I
just
get you.
wanted. I just thought, oh, that's what I
Like I just
want.
want a
I
bunch of
wanted,
kids.
yeah, but
Yeah.
um that was a little bit of course immature of me to not even think about like how am I going to raise them, like am I going to you know have the time, the money. And obviously I think that's something that we would have to talk about in another episode,
Yeah, that's a whole
because
other
that's a whole nother.
episode.
But yeah, I think I was in high
Yeah.
school. Yeah, I was like 17, 18.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like I just remember, like, these are some of the things that I remember. So I remember when my mom first got pregnant with Junior. I remember, like, there was like I feel like there was a different kind of excitement. Like, I don't know. I think because I mean by that time, I mean we were still little, but Claudia was like 5, so she wasn't a baby anymore. So I think us, like, in our, like, I was 7 and then you were 8. So I think I was still kind of thinking like that little girl, like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a baby, like a dog kind of thing, you know. It didn't dawn on me that we were gonna have to be responsible for that kid. Like, I was 7, I wasn't thinking about that. I just heard a new baby and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a new baby, you know.
Yeah.
um and so then when Junior was born, and it, like, like, we pretty much figured out, like, who's going to be taking care of that baby, then it kind of wasn't fun anymore because we couldn't go out, and play, and we couldn't do like what like the other kids were doing. And then it
Yeah.
just kind of became like kind of like like a job. Like it was like a like we like I felt like we couldn't keep being kids anymore because somebody needed to take care of this kid,
Mhm.
right? So I think
Mhm.
that kind of started building like a little bit of resentment, like oh my god, like like can't somebody just come and take care of these kids and then us. And so when Joey came along, not long after that, I clearly remember saying in my head like, what the fuck are these people thinking about? They have 4 children. And I remembered, and I clearly remember that. I clearly remember that because I was so angry. Like, are you guys kidding me? Like, we had this big fat baby that we have to holler around all over the place. And now we like another one. Like, I was literally like, I can't. Like, I can't. Like in my little head, I was just like, oh my God, like I think that was probably the beginning of my anxiety, to be honest with you, because it was so much anxiety to think that now we're going to have to take care of 2 babies. And I knew we were going to have to take care of them because, like, who else was going to take care of them? Because, my mom and my dad were working. So, like, what do we do? And so I think that when Joy was born, it was fucking hard. Like, that was like pretty much like it put pretty much an end to our childhood. You know what I'm saying? And I think that we just kind of were traviesas because we look for ways to kind of just go and be kids because we had to be adults like so young, like, taking care of, babies at 7 and 8 years old. Like we were babies. Like somebody needed to take care of us. Like we couldn't take care
Yeah.
of,
And I think that's going back to me being out, getting into so much trouble. I think I felt like I needed to just I was rebellious,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I got into so much trouble. Just hanging out with the wrong people, maybe.
Yeah.
Just not listening. Just going out. Um, just being a traviesa. And I think I just wanted to
They
be
just
a
wanted to be a
kid. I
kid.
wanted to be a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for anything bad to happen. I mean, it was
Well,
kind
no,
of
we were kids. Yeah.
like I just wanted to be out there and be a kid. And any little chance I got, I I would. And but that got me into
Yeah.
trouble. And so I think that's when it kind of like for me when it started, when I had all these you know accidents that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And not realizing that I could have possibly been taken away, from my parents, because I
Yeah.
remember talking to a social worker, and her asking me, are your parents taking care of you?
Did you
Are
ever
they?
think about saying like, no, they don't take care of us?
I you know
I'm just
I
kidding.
thought for a moment, like, oh,
I mean, because it's like it almost sounds like mean, like because they weren't doing anything bad; they were just
no, they
working.
were working. I know. And I think I realized at that point, like, shit, like, if I
If I,
say the wrong
yeah.
thing,
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh,
they
that's
could
crazy.
possibly just take me away, because you know I think
You kind of knew like we're not supposed to be alone so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
think I realized that, if I better say the right thing, or else I'm not gonna be a part of this family.
They're gonna take me away. Yeah, yeah. But I,
Yeah.
I, I think it
uh
was like that like a combination of like a lot of things for me. I think now that we became now that we're adults, middle aged adults, like it just seems like so different, like the way I used to see it when I was a kid. Like my perspective is totally different, and like I understand, but when you're a kid, like I think you're just angry, you're just like get really
yeah.
angry. And I think like for me, I think that's why I had like a big part of my life, like I was just freaking angry all the time.
Mm.
I was some shade of angry. And I think it probably had a lot to do with just like just not getting attention, not getting basically my emotional needs met. And that's pretty much what happens, because we weren't having somebody there to reinforce that, that we were, good kids, that, we were going to do well in life, to kind of like, root us on and support us. And then you just, kind of like we were talking about, with Xavier, it's those things that parents teach you, like right from wrong. They teach you, they even teach you empathy. They teach you how to, control, regulate your emotions. And like when you don't get any of that, you kind of turn out kind of angry, and
Mm-hmm.
then addicted to something, later on in the future. And then, I'm pretty sure that's why, it's probably a big part of like why I developed like a drinking problem, a lot of those things, and probably contributed to, just me having such an addictive personality. Because I think I was just, like, when I just feel that when kids don't have their needs met, like a lot of that stuff happens with them as they grow up and they get older. So I can kind of see that. I mean, I don't think about it like, oh my gosh, poor me or whatever. I mean, it's just life. It's, life happened and stuff. But just to kind of go back and think like the way I used to, like I thought about these situations where, like in my 7-year-old head, like like to say like, what the fuck, like, because I remember I used to have like these conversations in my head, like, what the fuck is, and I used to say like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, they can't keep having kids, like what? Oh my gosh, seriously, I think I was like so traumatized. I was so traumatized by that, and for a long time I'd be like, I'm never gonna have any kids, like I can't. I can't deal with that. um Obviously, I had the girls and stuff, and I didn't think like that anymore, but it kind of fucks you up for a minute. you
Yeah.
know but anyways, that I think that was like one of the hard parts, because it was just like one of those parts in life that are like hard, and then you overcome it, and then you kind of overcome other obstacles. And that was just like one that became really hard for me, because I think it kind of traumatized me and scarred me a
Yeah.
little bit. But like when I see you, like, I think I just feel like we kind of process like trauma differently, because throughout life, you've always kind of like had a different outlook about life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're just really good at it, and kind of like not showing like that part of your emotions. But I've always been like, you know me, like I'm so like I can't like if I need to cry, I need to cry, and I need to scream, I'm gonna scream. And if I just that's the type of adult that I became. But I think I became like that because of that part of my life. And I always kind of admired you, because I could never be like you, like calm like you. Like I could never be calm like you. You just have this like very calm demeanor about yourself, and you've always been like that since we were kids.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. I
know, like not even like even the way you cried was very like don't see me cry, and I would just be like Rah! Like
yeah.
like watch me cry, like you just were that kind of like little girl. And I think you became that type of adult also, like very quiet. And like it's hard for me to like to tell when you're in pain, because you hide it really good, like you always have a smile. And I always admire that about you, sister.
Oh,
Like
thank
honestly, I
you.
admire that about
I
you.
think part of it also became because I always felt like I needed to be like the second mom. Like I needed to be like a mom kind of figure to you guys, because my mom was always like, working. And then I always thought like, what if something happens to my mom or my dad? Like what, who's going to take over? Like it's going
Yeah.
to be me. I'm the oldest sister. So in my head I always thought like I need to be the strong one. And I'm the oldest, so I need to be the strong one. So
But you
and
and I are like literally a year
you're
apart.
apart, I know.
I mean, but you've always been like the mom. Like you've always been like the, yeah, like you said, like the strong
Yeah.
one. Like like we couldn't be a team because I needed, I needed you too. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like an interesting dynamic, like really interesting, because we should be more, you know, pretty much, with the same kind of attitude, at least, I think, just because, we're just so close in age,
Mhm.
you know. But you did, now that I think about it, you like
Mhm.
took on that mom role. And girl, I'm sorry that you went through that, because that's a lot. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot. Like for five, for four kids, and then, my dad also being a kid most of his life.
Yeah.
That was hard. Those were some hard parts. But I think my mom kind of relied on you also, because I think she just kind of did it without really like realizing that she did it,
Yeah.
because she couldn't do it by herself, like it was too much. It
Mhm.
was too many kids. It was too much. I think too many things going on in life that,
Mhm.
she did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of that's kind of like an interesting, like, part of part of life, because I think it was just the start for the relationships that we developed with our brothers, because growing up, I think I always saw like the boys like our kids. They weren't really, they were our brothers, but like we treated them like they were our children. We've always,
Mhm.
until I figured out like don't do that anymore. It's not good for him. I was, I was able to put a stop to that, but prior to that, it was like very like mother and childlike, and I think it was
Yeah.
just something that developed throughout time that we didn't even realize that we were doing it. We took on those like the mother roles for the boys, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
and I think that's why like their lives have always impacted us. Like if they're like, it was always like if they're well, like we're well, kind of like a mom, if
Yeah.
they're well,
Yeah.
we're well. And if they're not well, well, yeah, it just, it had such a big impact in our lives that when Junior wasn't well, we weren't well. And it took
Yeah.
a long time, like we couldn't like even to like mention his name, and because he wasn't well, so how could I be well? It was like, really, we took on, I think we took it on to the point that it started, for me at least, it affected my life. Like it
Yeah.
affected my life, and that was like really hard, because like they weren't our children, and they were never our responsibility, and that
Yeah.
never should have happened. But it was just like life and the circumstances, and I think that a lot of other people went through very similar experiences, because they formed those bonds with their younger, with their younger siblings, and then it just became very like, when mom and dad aren't available, like we're there, like we're gonna be there, like,
Yeah.
and we just step into these roles, not necessarily wanting them. They're just kind of, I don't know, like passed on to us, by accident, kind of thing,
Mhm.
you know. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm like so glad, to have, like that healthier relationship with like Joey, because I can finally see him not as my child. Like you're just a man that's gone through a lot of shit. You've made a lot of mistakes. But you're on, you learned a lot of lessons too. So
Mhm.
you're gonna be okay. But even if you're not okay, I'm still gonna be okay, because it's literally your life, and you do whatever it is that you want with your life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but it is that very, that thing that we share with my mom, because I think we share it, like him being like well, like brings us peace to all of us. And I don't think it's like dysfunctional anymore. I think it's just like, like I'm so happy that you're well, like I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy, and I want good things for you, and I'm glad that you're like in a good place at this stage in your life. And so, and so yeah, I think it's like a lot of like these areas of like not having like boundaries. We didn't have
Mhm.
boundaries. It was just like, you do it like for survival. Si no se
Yeah.
puede, si no les dan de comer, pues no van a comer. And that was like, now we laugh about it and stuff, but it was kind of hard, as it was happening and as we were growing up. But now, I mean, that's the only thing we could do. We just kind of, we just laugh about it, because in the midst of all that, I mean, we were still growing up, and we were still, we started. I remember starting junior high, and that was probably like one of the most exciting, like, times in my life. It was like the most fun, like, ever. um I remember, like really young. Remember when we started like working with that senora to cleaning houses? Remember?
Yeah.
I remember I was 12 and you were 13.
Yeah.
But I guess I was like a big 12-year-old, so I looked more like I was 15.
Yeah.
I could probably be passed by for like 15. And you, because you wore so much makeup, you kind of like look like older too.
Yeah.
So so I could see how like people, would mistake it as it was like the 80s and everybody was wearing like a lot of makeup and wearing a lot of hairspray anyway. So we just kind of looked older. But I remember cleaning houses with my mom, and I think the girl, it was, a really cool, like just like really beachy kind of Barbie, right?
Yeah.
Tammy, she was like
Yeah.
very, she was like really carefree, like I just
Yeah.
kind of remember she
Yeah.
was really cool. She was like she reminded me like a surfer chick, like she always had the tan, and she was just like a cool girl.
Yeah.
And so like going to work was, I mean, it wasn't even like I didn't even see it like work because we were young and we did things fast and stuff. But I mean, we literally went to work. We were cleaning houses. I mean, it was work.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, it was.
And
And it was like, I mean, getting up in the early. I remember
mhm,
getting up early in the morning. I mean, I think we would be there like all day
yeah, pretty much.
because I
Hmm.
remember like eating lunch. I remember, I don't know why, but I remember eating lunch with
Me
her. She
too.
would buy
Cause
us
she would always
food.
like cause Tammy would always buy us like lunch, and
Uh-huh.
my mom would be like, "Llévense unos burritos de frijoles," remember? And then we would be like, I would
Yeah.
be there with my burrito de frijoles con, with queso or whatever, wrapped in the aluminum foil. Then Tammy would be like, "No, girl, we're gonna go get burgers today."
Yeah, uh-huh.
Or what do you want? Do you want pizza? You want burgers? I'd be like, okay, let me put my burrito. And I
Yeah.
kind of remember that. And I remember I was like so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, like, why did my mom just make me a sandwich or something? I was
Yeah.
always so embarrassed. Everything embarrassed me. But I mean that was like some like I think about my girls when they were 12, like I wouldn't fucking send them out to work. That's like child labor.
Yeah.
I mean, we were
I,
kids. Like we shouldn't have been working, right? But I just remember that summer. I think that was the summer that I think I turned 13 that summer. And so we had gone, to work, and we had money, and I think Tammy would pay us like $80 a week or something.
yeah.
I think it was like, or whatever, because we would go that whole week and then we would alternate, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think she would pay, but $80 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, like what was it, 1986, 1987? That was a lot of money. And I remember, I don't know if it was for my birthday, but I just remember it was in the summer, during the summertime, because we were working, because it was during the summer break. And then we went to Knott's, remember? And we just
Yeah.
like blew, like I remember I blew all my money there, like all my money,
Uh-huh.
because I didn't care. Like I was like, like who needs money to get in? And like I think the entrance was like $8, like $8.
Yeah.
And I remember like we were paying for, or we wanted to pay for everybody in case they didn't have money or whatever, because we were like balling, because
Yeah.
we were making like $80 a week. And I think I had like $160 with me. And then and so I remember we went, and they had that like teenage club, Studio K.
Oh,
Do you remember
yes.
it?
Uh-huh.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
And they had like a lot of DJs and stuff, and it was like, I think it was us, and then it was Pepe and Esther and Memo, and I think it was Elisa, and who else? I can't remember, but it was
There
like
was
a
a
bunch
lot.
of
It
us,
was a
right?
big group.
We had like
Uh-huh.
a station wagon, and we packed it, and then
Yeah.
we got there, and so we spent the whole day there. And I remember like those were like some of like the most fun times.
Yeah.
We just went to dance, you
Yeah,
know?
that was fun.
That was
Mhm.
so much fun. So then working didn't really seem like working. It was just like, oh, because we had money to spend on
Yeah.
whatever we wanted. And or clothes, to go back to school. So then my
Mhm.
mom didn't have to,
Yeah.
buy us anything. But I mean, that was pretty young. Like 12 is pretty young. And I mean, even like going to sell, like when Claudia and I were selling flowers, like I was like, I think I was 14. So Claudia was 12 and we were selling flowers. Like, what the fuck? That's like child labor. Like, we could have been kidnapped.
Yeah.
Like I think
And
about
just the
that.
fact that we got in a creepy guy in a white van
I
with
know
no
that was so
windows. I
creepy.
mean, that's, you know,
Like, he could
I
have
mean, a
fucking
lot of
taken us
things could
and
have gone
kidnapped us,
wrong.
and like
Yeah.
nobody would ever see us again. And like, how come like we did that? Like, how did we? That was crazy. That was like crazy. But
Yeah.
I remember that part. And then, I mean, I feel like we were like kind of like hustler kids, Like I feel like our generation was like we were hustlers, like whatever, like job. Like I remember, I think Esther took us to this telemarketing job for something, and I think we were like 13 and 14, and we were working as some kind of like telemarketers for like a day or two.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
Like,
It,
who hired us? Like, what would they like? Isn't there any like laws? I don't remember them ever asking for ID or anything. And then
I just we would just answer phones
we were
or
answering,
call
yeah, we were
people.
calling,
Yeah.
but it was in a creepy office.
Yeah.
And then like, remember that? And now I think
Yeah.
like, well, weren't our parents like saying, where are you guys going? Oh, how did we get there? How did we get to these jobs?
Yeah.
Some creepy stuff happened in the 80s. Like, seriously, like you know, that was some crazy stuff because we were able to work without it, pretty much any, like we didn't need any IDs. Like telemarketer jobs, you
No.
didn't need any ID.
And then how do
That
we
was
get
weird.
paid? Did we get
I
paid
don't
by,
know. I don't know.
I
I
think it
don't
was
remember any.
cash. I don't
I don't
remember.
remember anymore.
But I
But
remember, I mean, we wanted to have money. We
yeah,
wanted, to go places to buy our stuff, and so we kind of just worked wherever they would hire us, you
I
know?
know.
Yeah.
Because you started working at the swap meet, at one of the
I
swap
started
meets.
working at the swap meet,
Which
just
swap meet first?
the one on Flower at the college.
Oh yeah, where the stadium is.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they used to have. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember
And
that. I
I
started.
first
Oh, you
first
worked at that swap meet?
mhm.
Oh, okay.
I worked at I remember I first got hired with like selling socks with this Asian guy.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then I didn't like that, and then one of the girls that worked there asked if I wanted to help actually like selling the tickets for the entrance, and like working for the actual like swap meet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember, yeah, I did that for a while too.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like 14, 15, I
Yeah.
think, around there. Yeah.
I mean, it just seems like a lot of us from our generation. I remember like a lot of the people like that I went to high school with would have like part time jobs on the
Mhm.
weekend at the swap meet or at the mini mall.
Yeah.
Like I feel like our generation and like everybody worked. Like we all had part time jobs.
Yeah, because even when I worked at the fairgrounds in Costa Mesa,
Yeah.
everyone from Saddleback worked there, either um, like selling the tickets at the snack bar with the vendors. I
Hmm.
mean, it was like I mean, like somebody would get someone in, oh, like they're hiring, like you want to work, and that's just kind of how it was. And I remember like a lot of people from Saddleback worked at the fairgrounds when
Hmm.
I worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
was
the
fun.
fairgrounds were like more bougie. I kind like
Yeah,
I think that the fairgrounds were considered like, oh, like they're like the bougie ones, because I think you needed ID to work there in a
yeah,
social.
yeah,
They asked
yeah.
you for all that.
Yeah. By that time, I did. We
Yeah.
did. You needed your. They asked for your social and
Yeah.
like school ID because I
Yeah.
had a school
Yeah,
ID.
because they had a lot of
Yeah.
the teenagers. But yeah, but the other swap meets, if they didn't ask you for anything, they just paid you cash and they
Yeah.
just gave you like $25 a
Yeah, they
day
would
or
pay you per
you
per
know
day.
what for whatever. But
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like even $25 to make on a day, pues ya te sacabas, like it was used for something.
Yeah.
I feel like for us, we just kind of used it for just like extra things that my mom and my dad couldn't buy us.
Mhm.
Like shoes, like nicer shoes, or even our hair products, because
Yeah, the hairspray.
the
Yeah.
hairspray, and then like all the stuff that we were using on even makeup and stuff. So we were working for to get us those extra things. You
Yeah.
know, I still remember when I was like, I think I was like 12. I always wanted to be like so unique, like not wear stuff that everybody was wearing. So I found these like really cool como like little booties, but they used to sell them at the grocery store. They used to sell them at, I remember it was that the ¿cómo se llamaba? The warehouse grocery store, la que estaba ahí por la Harbor Boulevard y la Garden, I think it was like Garden Grove Boulevard, around there,
Uh-huh.
in that area, in that vicinity, I think. And then and so there was like these really cool booties that nobody was wearing because they were just plastic, but like nobody else was wearing them because they were from the grocery store. So then I think they were like $5 or $3.50 or something. And so no me duraban mucho. Like I could only wear them probably like maybe a month, and then they were like plastic. Se le hacían hoyos. But I was like, I thought it was like the coolest thing that I was wearing something that nobody else was wearing, and everybody would ask me like, "Oh, where'd you get those boots?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." I would make up shit, like all kinds of stuff, like, "Oh, they were somebody brought him from like Japan or something." Like, oh my god, the lies that I used to make up. Anyways, but and so I think that like most of the work that I totally got off subject, but um I think most of the time when we went out to work, it was to kind of like you know like basically supplement my mom and my dad's income, because
Mhm.
they couldn't really give us all that, like to buy
Yeah.
like Reeboks or something, like
Yeah.
you know I remember buying like my first pair of Reeboks. I think I bought them with my own money. And so I just remember getting stuff like from the tienditas instead of the swap meet, or from the or sometimes we would just go to the mall. Remember,
Yeah.
like when we would make a little bit of extra money, we would like go to the mall and maybe go to like to one store, and then buy something
Yeah.
at the mall. That was like so like, oh my gosh, like we went to the mall, because
Yeah.
we didn't really go to the mall, huh? We just went to the
No.
swap meet and the mini mall.
Yeah.
And I think and I think a lot of us like grew up like that. I think a lot of us like in within our area in Santana, I think the majority of us, until we all started growing up and getting into high school, and then making a little bit more money, and then I think we started shopping at the malls because
Yeah.
we like the nicer stuff, you know. But I also think that the reason that a lot of us started working so young was because there was a need to help the parents,
Mhm.
because a lot of the our friends, they came from they were like part of big families. La mayoría,
Mhm.
verdad, venía.
Mhm.
They were like 5 kids. There was a lot of families that had 5 kids.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of rare, like cuando nomás había 1 or 2 kids, because it was usually like the bigger families, verdad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think for me at least, at some point that was just like very normal, to see big families like that. I knew that I didn't want a big family like that, but everybody around us and most of our friends, like, they came from big families,
Mhm.
and I think muchos también eran immigrants. They had to have
Yeah.
been, because they were from our same age. They're from our same generation, so they're in our same age group. So I just kind of feel like a lot of us went through a lot of the same things, pero como que nos daba vergüenza. Like we all knew that, that we were buying shit from the zombie, but like I mean, we were really talking about it, you know. If, I think we were just all trying to be like original and I don't know. At least I was. I was.
Because I remember like you know, I mean, as Esther at that time was like, she was my bestie, and I remember we would share clothes. We would buy clothes like she
Mm.
and I remember she would be like, "What are you wearing tomorrow? Okay, I'm gonna wear this. Oh, can I wear one of?
Yeah.
Can I wear this? Can I wear?" And so we would share our clothes, and I think we were like the popular girls, like me and Esther.
Yeah,
Like
you
when
guys
we were
were
like
in junior high.
seventh, eighth grade, we had a lot of. I remember a lot of kids asking, "Oh, you guys dress so cute? Like you guys look so cute." Um,
Mm.
but at that time, I want to say that Esther was also, you know, like working somewhere, because she would also buy clothes and then we would
Mm-hmm.
share that clothes, me and her. Like I would buy clothes and then, um, so, but we wanted to be like the cool girls. Like we wanted to look cute and we wanted to wear makeup and act older. I think that's one of the reasons why we just became such really good friends. Like we just became like she was my best friend because we wanted to be those girls that the popular girls that
Mm-hmm.
with our hair, with our makeup, with our and so yeah, so I think we just wanted to be like I don't know, like original, but at the same time um we wanted attention.
Mm.
We wanted other kids to be like looking at us, and we were cute. I mean, we were cute girls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We remember we going to school, and we were already like into boys.
Mm-hmm.
I think our eighth grade, I think that's when we kind of just developed just the I don't know. I want to say like we just a lot of boys liked us, you know,
Yeah.
and and we just we liked that attention. We wanted to just or like oh yeah, they like us because we're cute, because we're pretty, and so I think that was like a to me, I think my those years, seventh, eighth grade, where I think about it now, and I think those years were like very they impacted my life a lot,
Really?
because I think that's when I realized like yeah, if you're pretty, and you know if you look good, then
You can get anything
you
you
can get
want?
anything you want.
Oh.
I think that's when I realized like yeah, we have like these boys that like us, and so they would buy us stuff, and I don't
And
know,
give you
I think
just
that's when
attention.
I
Yeah.
think that's when I realized like yeah, if you look cute, if you look pretty, then yeah, we're gonna have guys buy us what we want.
Like seeing you and then like having having you and Claudia as sisters, I honestly think that that had like that was like hard for me in life because I think I didn't look like you guys and I didn't like fit in. I wasn't like cute and I wasn't small, I wasn't petite. I was just me, you know, I was taller and I had light skin and I had crooked teeth, which really like messed up my, you know, like really messed with my self-esteem. But I think, you know, like seeing you only a year older than me and getting so much attention, like just it did something to my brain where I just honestly I just believe that I was not pretty. Like I was like ugly. And I think I just created that in my brain. It wasn't that anybody told me I was, you know, ugly. It's just that nobody told me I was pretty either, you know? So seeing you and Claudia get all the attention, yeah, like that really like that had a big impact, in with my self-esteem. And I think it actually, like, impacted me in, in pretty serious ways, because I always wanted to, because it was like in the Mexican culture, they do this thing where they're always comparing all the hermanas,
Mhm.
like, si una está flaquita, quieren que todas estén flaquitas. Ay, pero tú, ¿por qué no estás flaquita como tu hermana? Like, because I'm not my sister, because I'm not in her body, because I eat it, whatever. But I remember we used to get that shit a lot, and like, ay, pero mira, mira esta flaquita, mira, and like, and it was just like, oh, and you're just there. And it was, and obviously I never got that kind of attention from boys. You know, um, I think eventually I became pretty, but I feel like it was like later in life when I just started, gaining like more self confidence, because it was just my confidence. It was never that I was ugly. I just didn't have any self esteem and stuff.
Mhm.
So, and obviously once you have self-esteem, then you attract, people. But before that, because I didn't have any self-esteem, I had a really hard time in junior high. Like, junior high was me for me was brutal. I mean, fucking high school was brutal for me. It was so hard. Like, I think about it and I wish, like, I would have just skipped all that. I didn't have any good experience. Like, I had so many like really bad experiences that I just like, I think I just kind of developed this thing that I hated school, that I hated school. And then like, I hate school because I'm not smart, and then, obviously, that messes with you also. But I think, I think you being skinny fucked me up. you know and you being skinny and being so pretty, because I mean, you're a beautiful woman now, and you've always been like beautiful. And so, I just think that, I think it just kind of goes back to, when we're little, to be told like, you're different, you guys are different, but you're both beautiful,
Mhm.
you're just different,
But
and you're beautiful in different ways.
yeah, but I think um so you're by you saying that, that I think when as we were little girls that, and I don't know if it happened to Claudia, but I think it also affected us because when we were little, you were like the light one, the güera. I mean, I remember
That's so
my
funny.
grandma. I remember thinking like, why is she different? Why is she why are we dark and she's light? And I
Mm.
remember thinking because everyone like la güera. I mean, my grandma, my grandpa
Yeah,
were like,
I remember that.
and I think, and I remember my grandma and my grandpa. I mean, they loved us, but I could see that they prefer you all
Hmm.
the time because they would get happy to see you. Oh, ay, la güera, because you were so güerita with I mean, blondish hair with light skin, and it almost seemed like, oh, we were like the dark ones.
Really?
Yeah, and I
That's so
think it
funny.
affected what affected me in some way, and then I'm pretty sure it affected Claudia because she
Yeah.
was even like darker than me, and I just remember thinking like that, like that's kind of mean, like it's not our fault, that we're darker,
Yeah.
and then when Junior was born, he was light too, and
Yeah, he
he
got a
was,
lot of
yeah,
attention.
and I always thought like I guess being light skinned and
Oh,
being
wow.
I would always think like that's I don't know, it didn't affect me. I would just like remember like I would remember going to my grandpa's and thinking
Hmm.
like, oh, here we go again. They're gonna be like, ay, la güera,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I don't know if that affected Claudia also, but I just remember even to even like for Christmas, I feel
Hmm.
like you would always get like the nicer gifts.
Really? I
Maybe it
don't
was
remember
just
that.
me, but I remember they would give you a little bit more like extra stuff. I don't know if you remember,
Really?
but
No, I don't.
yeah, and I feel like that was mostly my dad's side of the family.
Mm.
I mean, my mom, it was my mom's side of the family that, it was different.
Yeah.
I think they all treated us all the same, but I think that with my dad's side of the family, it was like, no, like she's is la güera. I
Yeah.
mean, you were like
Well,
the
I mean, it was like, I mean, that's where, colorism is a problem. I don't think you're the only person that feels like that, um, because in a lot of families in the Mexican culture, as hay güeros and dark skin, and I've heard that from, and I've not only heard it, I've seen it. Like the light people always get more attention. The light people are always somehow like prettier, better,
mhm,
and the families do that. Like I it wasn't my fault. Like I had nothing to do with that.
mhm,
You could have been, for all I know, you could have been, the pretty one because you were darker. That's how I saw it. I grew up like thinking like I'm not born. I wasn't born in the right family. Like why am I not dark?
mhm.
And that so it kind of did something different to all of us. We all kind
Yeah,
of, if you kind of think about it, it damaged us all in different ways.
yeah.
Because
Well,
that's what happened.
yeah, especially because my mom and my dad were both dark,
Yeah.
and then you were like light, and then when you were like, I remember when we were like in elementary, you had like blondish hair,
Hmm.
and I remember, um, and I don't know why, but I remember this one teacher that we had, Miss Valenzuela. I don't know if
Hmm.
you remember her. She really liked you a lot.
She loved me.
And I think it was because you were light skinned like her. Because remember,
Mm.
she had blonde
Yeah.
hair, she was light skinned.
She really wanted to be
She
white.
really, yeah,
Miss
yes.
Valenzuela really wanted to be
She
white.
really wanted to be,
Yeah, you're right.
white. And I remember every time she would see you or talk to you, it was just she talked to you different than
Really?
the way she talked to us. I don't know.
That's
Maybe it was just
interesting.
me, but I remember thinking like, oh, she prefers her because she's light like her, she's güera.
Um,
I don't know. It's just but I think it was just a short period of time that
mhm.
happened. I didn't, then as we got older, I think I just, it didn't um affect me that way. But and when we were little,
Yeah,
it
of course.
did. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting. That I never knew that. I never, I don't think we ever talked about that. If it
Mhm.
affected you, if it didn't affect you. Um, because I think as we, even when we have conversations about my grandpa and stuff, it still comes up that I was his favorite, that I was his
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that I was his favorite. I don't think I was his favorite. I think he had other favorite grandchildren, my Tio Charot's kids. I think
Yeah.
those were his favorite kids. But maybe his favorite within our family,
Within our family, yeah.
because maybe I was the one that got like the most attention just because I look like, more like them,
Mhm.
and you guys, look more like my dad's side of the family, even though my grandma's like side of the family, like they're, también son morenos. So I mean, it's DNA, who knows? But I mean, it was like there was a lot of colorism when we were growing up, but it did come. I think specifically from my grandpa and my grandma, from my dad's
Mhm.
side. They
Yeah.
did it a lot,
It
and it was
did.
like I feel like somebody should have told him like, don't do that, don't say that,
Mhm.
But I think in our culture, like nobody would say, and
It might be because people just you maybe it's just like, oh, they're being disrespectful. Like you don't just, I feel like even with my dad really, I'm pretty sure my dad was very outspoken, you
but I
know,
don't remember
and
him ever saying anything like
yeah,
that,
and I think that's why, because it was just
like
kind of looked
respect.
at like, yo, how you can't
Hmm.
tell your parent that. You're being disrespectful to your parents. Like
Yeah,
you just don't say that.
yeah.
Even though my dad, um, you know, was like very he was very outspoken because he would say a lot of stuff, but
Hmm.
I don't think he ever said anything to his parents about
No,
that.
but I feel like he should
He
have.
should have.
I mean,
Yeah.
because if you don't speak up for your children, you can't, you know. But
Mhm.
I don't like, if we go back to that, then like I think that's why a lot of people hold resentments in life because of things like that. But it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, he probably didn't do it because he didn't know better. He didn't
Mhm.
know because nobody taught him, and so there goes a generational trauma. But no, I just honestly just think that if that it, now if we're in situations like that, I feel like we should speak up. I feel like we should say something.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know how people are gonna take it. I don't think people take it. I just had that experience, not that long ago when I said like don't do that, like don't do that. That's mean because I just like it's really hard for me to just see like witness people being mean to another human being. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're old enough to know better. Like,
Mhm.
why would you purposely hurt another human being's feelings just because?
Yeah.
Like, let's think about it. Why would we? Why would you? Like, you gotta be some evil motherfucker to just like, not take that into consideration that you're gonna hurt somebody else's feelings. Like, would you want somebody to hurt your feelings? And I think at some point, like, we just need to speak up, whether it's appropriate or we were raised or our parents taught us or didn't teach us. Like, I think that we're practically our generation, we're middle-aged people already, so we should know better and we should speak up and we should say something.
Yeah.
And if people don't like it, then I'm sorry. Like, sorry that, I offended you, but that's not my problem, But don't you think? I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that at least that's where I'm at in life, because I think witnessing like so many things, like growing up where adults fail to speak up, causes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if we, if we already know that that's wrong, like let's not keep, perpetuating like the same, kind of stuff, the same trauma. Like let's not do that anymore. Um, so anyways, I know that it's not necessarily seen like appropriate or whatever, but I don't know. I kind of don't care anymore. Like that's not,
Mhm.
you know, that's it doesn't affect me, if somebody doesn't like it. I
Yeah.
mean, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, they're not gonna be around you. They're not gonna, oh well, if you're a dick anyways, like, do I really want to be around you? Probably not. But yeah, I mean, it's it's just it's just kind of funny how, like it's these little things that, yeah, we laugh about, but when I talk about, talking about our experiences and who we became, like these are some of the things that happened to us, and what happened to us and who we became. We became who we became because of some of these experiences.
Mhm.
Like through life, I just kind of like started developing these, like either an illness, an addiction, something that had to do with weight, with color, with beauty. It was kind of like I feel like I had to go through a lot of things in life because, like, I struggled with like an eating disorder like pretty much all my life, like all my life. And I think that has to do with like honestly, sister, I think it was because of you. It's so like being compared to you so much, like did something to me, you know? And I know that you never noticed it. Like I know that you've always seen me like we're just different. We're just different people. We have different body types. We just look different. But I think constantly hearing like, why aren't you skinny? Like that fucked me up. It did. I couldn't help it. Just like you couldn't help gaining. I remember you tried so hard to gain weight and you couldn't, and you wanted to gain weight.
Yeah.
And I was always like trying to lose weight, but that just wasn't my body type,
Yeah.
So I did a lot of things to my body, and I damaged my body in such a way that I have consequences, till this day. And it's like, and it was because of that thing, because like reinforcing your children and telling them like, no, that's her and this is you. Like you guys are not the same people. You guys don't look the same. You guys are, two different people. You
Mhm.
know, you're beautiful the way you are. You're perfect the way you are, and you're perfect the way you are. But I think, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't attribute that to the culture. I just attribute it to, um, you know, just like not being present and not knowing. Like I think that if my mom would have been present a lot more, then we would have probably picked up a lot of the things from her. You know,
Mhm.
how to be better to ourselves and not how to, because we learned that from our mothers. You know,
Yeah.
how to take care of ourselves. Like, you know, my mom was never one of those people that would say she was fat. I don't recall her having, like, dealing with her weight or anything like that. So I know I didn't get that from her. But I think, yeah, being around two very small, like, petite, you know, girls, and me being like so different from you guys, yeah, that like had like a big impact, like a very big impact that eventually trickle down, you know, to the way I raise my girls. And you know, and that was like not a cool thing, you know, because I didn't see it in time, you know, to be able to make those changes. So I don't know, it's just kind of, you know, like when you start reflecting on like then, like all the stuff that happens that, you know, that created, you know, who we became, you
Mhm.
know, as women now. Like I could see, you know, like I could see like the good things, all the good things. There's a bunch of good things that happen in there too, but some of the bad things too that like had some pretty major like impacts, and you know, like I think in our lives personally, and then that eventually some of it trickled down to our, you know, to our kids,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, even with my dad, being my dad, I don't think my dad's ever been overweight.
No,
You
I
know,
think it was just the way we were raised, honestly.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was almost like my dad really, really was one of the reasons why too
Mm-hmm.
that he would
He
um,
body shamed.
body shamed
He did.
people, even now to
Yeah.
this day.
I don't know if he ever did like that to us. I don't remember him doing
I
that to
don't
me.
know.
But I think he would just point out like you're flaca, like you're la flaca. Because
Yeah,
I mean, to this day, like your nickname is still la flaca. I still call you la
yeah,
flaca sometimes. You
yeah,
know, it's his nicknames that que todos, you know, le apodan a sus hijos. You know,
yeah,
so I was la
and I
flaca
just
and you were la flaca and I was la güera and Claudia was
yeah.
la chaparra, you know, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I remember him talking about other people like, "Ay, está gordo, está gorda," you know,
Yeah.
and I remember thinking like, "Well, that's not a good thing,
Yeah, yeah,
you
of
know,
course. You heard
to
it.
be, you know." But like I know you saw yourself as being. I never saw you like being overweight ever. Like I just thought you that's just the way you were. I never saw you like that. But I know I did. I just had, you know, like that in my head, you know, about um overweight people. And I just thought like why are they overweight, like
Yeah,
why,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, why can't, why is it so hard for them to lose that weight, you know, but not thinking about like maybe they have some kind of medical
Yeah.
condition,
Mm-hmm.
um you know, some people struggle more than others, but for me it was just almost like no, you know, you just have to be thin,
Yeah.
you know, that's just the way it is, you know. And and I think I just, you know, I think my girls, even Lucas too, I
Mm-hmm.
know one time when he
Yeah.
gained a little bit of weight, I did a little bit of, you
Yeah, I
know,
remember. I was like,
and I
don't tell
remember
him that. Don't
yes,
tell him that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so
Mm.
it was just it was easy for me, you know, to if I felt myself gaining weight, like okay, this is what I need to do to lose that weight, you know. So yeah, I mean, it was just that's just what I saw growing up, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with my dad. Um, you know, just that he was always like, no, you know, you have to stay
Yeah,
fit, you
because
have to
he always
stay,
I think he always attributed weight with health.
yeah,
Like
hmm,
if you're like, you know, if you're not thin, you're not healthy.
yeah.
And I think that's how he saw it. But sometimes the way he expressed himself wasn't
It
like
wasn't
the nicest
the
way or
yeah,
anything like that. I, you know, I just don't know if he knew how to do it any other way. So he just kind of, you know, he kind of según él, we was kind of like being funny, but he was kind of being like low key, like mean also, right? But
Yeah,
nobody kind of said anything because that's just like how he was,
yeah.
you know?
And no one could really say anything to him
Yeah,
because
he
he
was
was
thin.
always thin.
He's always
He was
been thin.
always been
But I
thin.
mean, I think he even fat like shaped my mom. Like I think my mom probably. I gotta ask her because I think she, she was probably a little traumatized by that too. Because my mom was always like, she was really thin when they got married, but then she put on weight. I mean, after so many kids
Yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that, never going to the gym or taking care of herself, she put on weight. And I remember like he used to like tell her like make kind of like those jokes
Like
like those fucking jokes like when they grab your lonja, like that's not cute. Like, bro, don't do that. Oh, it's because it's cute. No, it's not cute. Like, I mean, especially if you already have an eating disorder, that's like that just like takes you like
yeah,
over the
yeah,
edge. Like,
yeah,
and it's sometimes it's just fucking skin,
yeah.
It's crazy. Anyways, I think my dad might have done that to my mom, you know. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I mean, because my mom has always been like very conscious. Also, like now that they're older, they say because of because they don't want to get diabetes, because of health and health reasons. Um, and they're like so proud. They're so proud that they're like, yeah, like I keep my weight and like they maintain their weight. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
noticed that, but
Yeah.
they're like so proud. And
I
so
think it's because just being like, a lot of the friends that they
yeah,
have, you know, that are around their age are not healthy, are in bad health, they're overweight,
yeah,
and um, and they're so active, and you know, so I think, yeah, that they feel proud,
yeah,
to know that, like, oh, so and so, or during COVID, I mean, they lost a lot of
I know.
friends,
Yeah, they did.
and it because of their
I think
health.
something happened to them after COVID because yeah, they kind of became like hyper like conscious about their like their health and
Mhm.
staying healthy and stuff. And I obviously have a lot of conversations with them, and I mean, yeah, they should worry about their health and they should be but I mean, don't like fixate on it either.
Mhm.
Like just kind of like live.
Yeah.
Because sometimes my dad's like, "Oh, gotta go exercise." Like, if you don't go exercise every day, like you're gonna be fine. Like,
Mhm.
push each other, but yeah, I kind of do. I noticed that something happened to them after COVID. So, anyways,
Yeah.
but that's a whole other
Yeah, yeah,
episode.
yeah.
But anyways, okay. So I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. Yeah, sister. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you guys for listening.
We kind of went a little deep today. I hope you guys don't get too bored. I don't know, like a lot of stuff resurfaced that I wasn't necessarily like thinking about or planning on talking about, but I'm kind of glad that we talked about it. I think the point of doing this is to be able to just talk about it. Just like it's so natural. It's just such a natural part of life that that we have conversations where like I don't know, when we don't feel ashamed of some of the things that we did when we were kids because we were kids, or some of the bad decisions that we made, or you know, I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're just people, and you know, we all have issues and stuff, but if we just kind of learn to understand each other, be tolerant, and obviously my number one thing is just like be kind to each other, just like show like just like a teeny bit of kindness to one another, and I think that kind of goes a long way. But with that said, thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, sister,
Thank
for
you.
coming out.
Thank you guys. Bye.